welcome to Book Club Preview. I'm Michael, and today we're looking at The Body in the Library, Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. It starts off with the Chief Inspector going over reports. What have the other policemen talked about or discovered or found, and he's looking through all of them, and he really starts to get an understanding of what had happened in the night. Sometime between 10 p.m. and midnight, the girl died. Okay, we don't know when. No one has seen her before. There's no connection. There was no sign of struggle. Okay, so she wasn't like fighting or anything. Just someone wrapped this, like maybe there was like this string on her dress, and this string was what was used to kill her. So he's kind of getting all these details, and they find that no one is missing her, and suddenly there's a phone call. What? Yes, this girl, this description. Oh, I think we have her. And they not sure, but they decide to go out to this hotel. I can't actually remember the name, but there is someone related to the girl, and they're gonna go find out who she is. So Inspector Slack runs off. He likes to do things. He's very energetic. He's very strong and forceful. So he jumps in the car and he drives out to this hotel, I guess near the beach, to talk with who we find out Josie, who's Josephine Turner, to find out what's been going on, who this young girl is that's died. So he goes there. He finds this girl that says, "Oh, I think this is my cousin, but I'm not sure." So he's okay. Well, let's bring you back so you can identify the body. He brings her back. Now, Josephine gets introduced to the chief inspector, and Inspector Slack is like, "Oh, this is Josie." So Josie, addressing her by her like first name, maybe that's very common in that hotel. "Hi, I'm Josie." Makes you feel very warm, but this is a polite society, so you address people by their last name. And so Chief Inspector kind of looks at Inspector Slack like, "Why are you talking to this lady so friendly?" And the lady, Josephine, she can catch this because she works in the entertainment industry and she has really sensitive personality. And she says, "Oh, my name is Josephine Turner." And then the chief inspector says, "Miss Turner," okay, using her last name, "it's nice to meet you. Unfortunately, we have some tough business to talk about." So they go and they talk with Josephine, or Miss Turner. They find out maybe she is the cousin of the victim. They said, "Let's go look at her." And so she looks and she says, "Oh, yes, that's Rosie." Now, I'm actually acting a little bit too much. That's just my mind. She doesn't have as much care as I think I had in my voice. She's angry, she's shocked, but she doesn't show a lot of my poor cousin. She doesn't show a lot of grief. Yeah, there's some sadness, but there's a little bit more anger and shock than sadness, which is kind of strange, which we get into later. We find out the young lady's name is Rosie Legg, and I think they would just call her Rosie on stage. And Rosie is a dancer. She was dancing in another area that wasn't a very good position, but her cousin got her this position to be the dancer, which is a really good position, because Josephine, she was at the beach and she hurt her ankle. Oh, and she couldn't dance. This was her job. So if she couldn't dance, then maybe the boss would bring in someone else, and that dancer would then take over Josephine's position, which then Josephine would be hurting for a job. So she wanted to ask her family member to maybe keep it a little bit safer. And so that's where we were learning about how Rosie gets this job. And Rosie's, I think, 18 years old. And yeah, then they talk about that evening. What happened that evening? Well, uh, Josephine's job is to like get the energy going in the dance area. So she meets some young men and they look like they're trying to connect with some people. She meets some young girls. These girls look like they want to connect with people and she kind of gets them to dance together. Right? Maybe there's some lonely guys and she gives them a drink and maybe helps some other people connect, and so that's kind of her job. She's a hostess, trying to make people feel comfortable, welcome, and warm in this dance place, but she's also the lead dancer. So she's doing her thing, and Rosie is dancing with a young man, Mr. Barlett, I believe, and she's dancing for a while, and then she disappears, and she's supposed to come back, Rosie, to do her performance, her dance, but she doesn't come. And so the dance partner, who's kind of the leader of this area, comes to Josephine, says, where's your cousin? She's not here. They're both really angry. They tell the band, keep playing music. They go to her room. They can't find her. And they think maybe she just ran off with some young man to spend the night together or something. And they're like, oh, that stupid young girl. She's so foolish. And they're really, really angry. They don't know she's been killed. So then they go back and they do like a simple dance routine and everything's saved. In the morning, Josephine isn't the one that calls the police. It's actually another guy, Mr. Jefferson, who we'll learn more about now. But as the chief inspector and Josephine are talking, we learn that the colonel, Colonel Bandry, he had been to that hotel a week ago. And so Inspector Slack, he keeps feeling like the chief inspector is trying to protect Colonel Bantry because they're old friends, they're in the same social level, and so maybe the chief inspector is trying to protect his buddy. So Inspector Slack keeps hinting that, hey, maybe it's the inspector, or maybe it's the colonel. And so he writes on this piece of paper, and the colonel sees it, or the chief inspector sees it and says, maybe the colonel does know something more. So Josephine, why don't we have you come meet the colonel? And they're looking to see if she recognizes him. So now we go to the chapter 4, which is mostly about gossip. There's Miss Weatherby giving gossip about, did you hear what happened? And all this gossip, it sounds like the colonel did it, right? They all think, men are so terrible. How could he? They just think he's the one that killed her. And so these two ladies are gossiping. Eventually the gossip gets to Mrs. Price Ridley, who hears the gossip. Mrs. Price Ridley then tells Vicar Clement the gossip. And all this is going on, and different bits and pieces are being added, and the story's being, we say embellished, meaning it's giving more details. So by the time Vicar Clement hears it, and I think Mrs. Price Ridley hears it, Rosie is like not wearing any clothes. Like she's naked, she's dead, and like everyone's shocked. But we know it's not like that, but the gossip keeps growing and growing and growing. Now we're back at Grosington. So this is part 4 of chapter 4. And it's Mrs. Bantry and Mrs. I just had her name, but I forgot her name. I'm going to remember it as soon. She's our main character. Janet is, I think, her first name, but I can't remember her last name. So they're talking, and they're... the main character, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to pause. I have to figure out her name because this is driving me crazy. Miss Marple. Oh my goodness. So Mrs. Bantry and Mrs. Marple are talking. Mrs. Marple's like, well, I think I better go. And Miss Bantry's like, wait, no, don't go. I feel like something's still gonna happen. You have to wait with me. And so she does. Miss Bantry hears that the chief inspector is coming over with Josephine Turner, so they stay, and Miss Marple is watching this whole time. And it happens to be... Okay, let me wait for it. Josephine comes, and she meets Mrs. Marple, she meets Miss Bantry, and Mrs. Marple's observing all this, and she notices that Josephine is really angry that Rosie's dead and that Rosie was gone, but she's not sad. That's kind of interesting for Mrs. Marple. And then the Colonel or Mr. Bantry and Josephine meet, but they don't recognize each other at all. Whew. The chief inspector feels better, and he's also a little angry at Inspector Slack. And then they start to learn a little bit more about Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Jefferson is the one that called in and said, hey, this girl's missing. Can the police look for her? Okay, well, who's this guy? Oh, Mr. Jefferson. Actually, the Bandrys know her. Or know him, sorry. And they're good friends. And as they talk about the Jeffersons, Josephine Turner there's something strange as she talks about them. Yeah, they're nice people, I guess. I better go. Okay. And Mrs. Bantry and Miss Marple notice this. And they're like, that was really weird. And so we learn about the Jeffersons. The Mr. Jefferson was a handsome man. He had 2 kids. And then they all got in a plane accident. He lost his legs and his kids died. So now he lives with his daughter-in-law and his grandkids. And they stay at that hotel every summer. So it's a real tragedy. But that's kind of them. And Mrs. Bantry says, Miss Marple, we need a holiday. We're going to go to this hotel and visit Mr. Jefferson and see what's going on and relax. Because there's too much bad atmosphere around here. And that's how the chapter ends. Okay, some vocabulary. Scrutinized is to look at the details to try and find a problem, to look really strongly. So Chief Inspector is scrutinizing the reports. Chisel, this is a tool. If you know the great artist Michelangelo, he's usually holding this piece of metal with a sharp point, not like a knife, but a sharp point, and a hammer. This part is a chisel, and he's using it to open things. So the window was opened with a chisel. Whenever I see this word, I forget how to pronounce it. It means you don't want to share information. I'll remember how to pronounce it in just a moment. But the word means you don't want to share. And when you are around Chief Inspector, or not Chief Inspector, but Inspector Slack, he's so strong, you want to close up. Reticent. Oh, there we go. Reticent. That's how you pronounce that word. Cadaveric. Cadaver is a dead body. So cadaveric is describing something as like a dead body. In this case, it's the woman's dead body. Vigo intactica. This is like Latin from the doctor saying that the young woman, she has never been with a man, like overnight. No one has messed with her body. Okay, that's kind of the meaning there. Indignant is like with anger or frustration or annoyance. You can think of a little kid going, right there, or indignant. This is a French word. I think it's retroussé, which is the nose is pointed up just a little bit in a cute way. Okay, not like a pig, but just a little cute, tipped up. And Rosie's nose is a little retroussé. Raising the wind. This expression is like, I don't know if it's like from a ship expression of having a boat and making the sail come down to get things going. But that's what it means, like get things going, get things started. It might come from a tradition of like asking the spirits, spirits are ghosts that are like you can't see them but you can feel them. It feels like wind. So it's like getting the spirits to come help you, like praying or something like that. This is raising the wind, getting things started, getting things going. Mortuary is a place that you store dead bodies. Like in a hospital, usually there's a mortuary where they put all the dead bodies. A few more here. A good dressing down. I don't know where this comes from, but maybe you can think of if you're in trouble, your parents are going to spank your bottom, okay? And they can do it over your pants, but maybe they take the pants down so you have your bare skin and hurts more, right? Good dressing down, whatever it means, wherever it comes from, it means lecturing, yelling, getting in trouble, or disciplining. Invalid. So there's invalid, invalid, okay? Same spelling. It's actually same word, but they're pronounced differently. Invalid means useless, not acceptable. Invalid is a person who, in this case, we don't use this word anymore, who society thinks is unuseful now. So Mr. Jefferson, his legs were cut off. So he can't work, he can't walk. And maybe people look at him as being invalid in society, but we call that an invalid, okay? Invalid is a person who has some body damage to them, although we don't use that word anymore. Or invalid. It means something that is useless or not accurate anymore. Okay, this one was a little bit tricky for me. Acidulated spinster. Acidulated means sour. Acid, like a lemon acid. She has become sour inside. And a spinster is an old woman that never got married, okay? So the two ladies at the beginning of chapter 4, they're acidulated spinsters, kind of sour spinsters. They say things like, "Oh, isn't it so sad that a young girl's dead body was found in I can't remember the house's name, but the Bantry's house." And the other one says, "Oh, it's so shocking. Men are so evil," right? And they're feeling this slight joy in this bad news. Okay, here's another one. Indefatigably. It comes from the word fatigue, means tired. Indefatigably means you don't get tired. You keep going without losing energy. And maybe this is, I think of like Inspector Slack, but this probably wasn't about him. Fatuous is like dumb, not smart, not intelligent. And avuncular, you see uncle in there, is like an uncle, which just means like kindly. So Colonel Bantry, he likes to look at beautiful young women a little bit, but more like in a dumb, silly uncle kind of way. You can imagine, when there's an old man, but there's a beautiful young girl, right? 18, 16, 21. And she just has this sweetness. And she's like, "Oh, Grandpa, you're so wonderful." And the old grandpa kind of has a silly smile. And he maybe gives her extra money, as kind of love or affection, right? That's kind of how Mrs. Bantry is describing Mr. Bantry. Insinuate is to hint at. Maybe something happened. You don't say it directly. Colonel Bantry killed the young woman. It's just like, hey, Colonel Bantry was at the hotel. This girl was at the hotel. The girl was found in Mr. Bantry's house. Do you think something might have connected him? Right? You're insinuating. You're not saying it directly. Okay. Discussion question. Is there any question you would like to ask Josie or any of the other characters? For me, as Chief Inspector were asking questions and as Marple were asking questions, there were some questions that I was like, oh, just want to ask this question to find out some answers. Did you feel like that? Was there any question you wanted to ask? And of course, please make your own discussion question. That's all the time that we have for today. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.